and welcome to Tech presented by KaiZen, where we will explore common cleaning questions and answers. Let's get started. I would like to introduce KaiZen's own Phil Tomasello.
Thanks, William. And thanks to everybody joining today for another Tech to Tech. Following up on the prior session we had on vapor degreasing, this is part two in the vapor degreasing series. And I'd like to talk with you folks about what some of those options are for vapor degreasing. And to do that, really, first we need to take a look at recent EH&S updates. Uh, we know that older generation brominated, chlorinated HFCs and other solvents are currently being reviewed by the EPA. And as of June, July of 2020, there were draft revisions that were set out to be reviewed, published by the EPA, looking at reducing the ppm exposure. So there's a strong likelihood that solvents containing these substances are going to be phased out in the near future under the TSCA. So important to keep that in mind when we're looking at options. In reference to that draft revision, you can see the solvents here, TCEs, bromopropanes, methyl chlorides, chlorchloroethylene, and you're going to look at the ppm column to your far right. So those are those proposed levels of unreasonable risk, and that's dropped significantly if you look at the prior columns. So at this point, important to keep in mind when you're looking at options that things are going to be changing, and your solvent choices really need to include products that don't contain some of these substances. Companies that are looking to move to newer generation solvents without the chlorinated, brominated components are certainly going to benefit in many ways. Companies can provide that safer working environment, obviously, better EH&S practices. You're going to avoid those non-compliance issues and future concerns, right? Certainly looking at things now ahead of time, proactively allowing your company to develop new processes for parts cleaning is key. No one wants to wait till the last minute. Certainly, there are a lot of implications with that. So now's a real good time to look at new solvent options. I'm sure most of us are familiar with the vapor degreasing process, but walking through it very briefly, current cleaning usually has immersion process through most of the soils. Some it's vapor exposure, but really it's immersion. Parts typically are immersed in the boiling solvent, then rinsed in a lower temperature rinse stage of the solvent. So you get a good two-stage of vapor and immersion to help the cleaning process. In a lot of vapor degreasing machines, ultrasonics or spray under immersion are also added, and they create more turbulation, help displace a lot of contaminants. This is a diagram of a two-chamber vapor degreaser you can see here. Up top, from a process standpoint, the powered cover moves to the side, and you've got your mechanical drop of your baskets coming through the freeboard chiller. These are coils that are 0 to minus 20 degrees Fahrenheit, providing that cold layer of air, keeping all that down. The primary condensers are roughly 30 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit, and underneath that is the hot vapor zone, which is running at the same temperature as your heaters here for your solvent. That could be anywhere from 66 degrees to 130 degrees, roughly, depending upon the solvent you're using. Water separator over here. The ultrasonics would happen here in the rinse chamber. So product would come down, it would hold in the vapor, 30, 45 seconds, then go into the boil chamber. It could be there 45 seconds, 60 seconds, depending on process. It would go to the rinse chamber. It would come back up into the hot vapor zone. That's where the parts in the basket would drip off. And then gradually back up through the freeboard chiller where you'd really have a flash dry process occur. Cover goes back on. That's a real good internal look at that. You can see the chillers here. You can see more of the coils down here, 30 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit roughly. And the condensation that builds up from the vapor going to run off the coils down right along all these edges, which are designed to go into this weir, to the water separator. Solvent being heavier will go to the bottom. Of course, that feeds through back to the rinse tank and eventually overflowing into the wash tank. It's a real good contained process. As noted, operational temperatures, it's going to range depending upon the solvents that you choose. It's an efficient way to clean. Vapor degreasing is one of many ways to clean. If you look at vacuum degreasing or other aqueous options as well, but vapor degreasing, it's one good type of process to be involved in. You're cleaning steel, titanium, magnesium, yellow metals, aluminum. Works very well. Solvent cleaning generally is going to remove nonpolar water-soluble residues. It's going to remove oil, grease, flux, soldering residue, buffing compounds. It's great for that. And I think we all know, but the key to really finding the best solvent options is to take a look with your team and understand what substrates you're required to clean. Understand what soils have to be removed from those substrates and look at those process parameters, and then certainly take a look at the degreasing equipment you either have or you plan on getting. And as we discuss, I think frequently on KYZEN Tech to Tech, key variables, 4 of them for establishing balanced cleaning, regardless of vapor, vacuum, or aqueous. Key variables remain the same. Look at the time, look at the energy, the solvency, and the temperature. All those need to be focused on to make sure you've got a balanced process. A few other drivers, certainly from a selection standpoint, when looking at vapor degreasing and solvents, personnel, right? EPA, VOC content. There are going to be permit limits out there that your company needs to look at. There are greenhouse effects. There's carbon footprint, safety implications. And it's important that a company has a lot of their teams that interface. Without that, some of these may be overlooked to some extent, right? People focusing on personnel may not look at energy consumption and vice versa. When you take a look at selecting solvents, just keep in mind people out there that are providing viable solvent for vapor degreasing. Contact your trusted chemical supplier. Contact the people you trust, and they can get you to the solvents that are EPA compliant. Also, I think important to keep in mind are water restrictions. We know a lot of that is happening throughout the US and candidly throughout the world. So solvent cleaning may be a good choice, but you may have to look at that out of necessity depending upon where you're located. As I mentioned, but I think important to state again, there are solvents on the market that will meet critical performance requirements that are compliant with federal, state, and local regulations. So they're out there. To conclude, we know vapor degreasing is one of many ways to clean. It is really an effective parts cleaning option. Very important to stress, though, is that traditional solvents are not surviving the 21st century. EH&S standards will be changing, so it's important to start proactively looking at compliant options now, that referencing some of those substances that are going away very quickly. To have a balanced cleaning process, make sure that you take into account the time, the energy, the soils, the substrates. Consider all those things before making your choices on a solvent to go in your vapor degreasing process. Again, can't stress enough, just ensure that the solvents you selected are compliant with the state, with the Fed, local regulations. Many frequently asked questions we get, these are probably four. The biggest ones we see is, how can I ensure that the solvent is in compliance with environmental regs? And the first thing to do is look at the SDS data. And after your team looks at that, reach out to your trusted EPA and OSHA consultant. Have that dialogue, have that meeting, and just make sure that the contents of those solvents are going to comply with all applicable laws. Another question, will solvent cleaning be phased out? Generally, the answer is no. However, it's important to keep in mind that chemistry will certainly change in response to future EPA guidelines and regulations. So those future changes are going to dictate how future solvent cleaning is performed. Another question is, how often should I monitor my vapor degreasing process? And the consensus is on a monthly basis. A monthly analysis of solvent used for vapor degreasing is important. You want to test the pH, the acidity, and the moisture content. We recommend that. High acidity can build up. It can do a significant amount of damage to machines, to pumps, to hoses, and create further safety issues down the line. So monthly is what we recommend at least. Are there efficient ways to clean my vapor degreasing machine? Fourth question. Yeah, there are inline solvent recycling waste separation systems that are on the market that will capture and remove contaminants. And that's going to save you time. It's going to save you operational cost. It's going to reduce waste disposal. It'll certainly extend the solvent bath life. So please keep that in mind. And again, speak to your trusted chemistry providers and professionals to help guide you. With that, I will turn it back over to William.
Thank you, Phil. And thank you guys for tuning into this tech session. If you would like to discuss this topic further or have any questions that weren't answered in the session, please contact your local Kaizen regional manager or send an email to tech@kaizen.com, and we will have someone follow up with you as soon as possible. Do you want to have exclusive access to future content sent directly to your inbox, or do you know someone who would benefit from these sessions? The answer is yes. Just go to tech@kaizen.com and fill out the subscription form. And if you like this video, be sure to follow us on our social media platforms for more expert cleaning content.